will only show solidarity to the Americans.
President Jacques Chirac of France, thank you very much for joining us on CNN today.
All right, thank you very much, Christiane Amanpour, with that live interview with French President Jacques Chirac. Now, before we went into that interview, we kind of cut short some of the information that we were relaying to you that we had culled from New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani's press conference. He was announcing some of the latest information that they've been able to pull together about the grim and, in some cases, really gut-wrenching task of recovering bodies from the rubble down there in Lower Manhattan. And here is the latest information that we have from the mayor. There are 4,763 on the missing persons list at this particular time. Now, that number includes the people who were on the planes, as well as any people that may have been working in businesses down there, as well as people that who have called in, families who have called in to notify authorities that they have people from their families they believe may be down in Lower Manhattan. Now, to this point, rescue workers have recovered 94 bodies that they have numbered for identification. 94 bodies have been recovered, and of those 94, 46 of them have been identified. That means that they have now left, at this particular point, the mayor says, 70 body parts in addition to the remaining bodies that have got to be identified. They've got 70 body parts to deal with. Now, the mayor also went on to note that the Omni Hotel at Washington Avenue has been set up as a family service center, and so far they've got some 2,000 families registered there. Now, if you think that you need to be among those families who are registered there, if you're trying to find out about the whereabouts of loved ones you have not heard from for the past 48 hours, you need to go to the Omni Hotel at Washington Avenue and register there. Now, as far as the city streets and the areas and the businesses down in Manhattan and maybe near that area, we understand that right now the mayor says everything is open down to Canal Street, and that parts of Lower Manhattan have been closed for the past 48 hours, may be opening perhaps as early as midnight tonight or tomorrow morning. And of course, we'll update you on any more information we get regarding all of that.
That we will. And Leon, of course, New York City is ground central for the rescue operations, but this is affecting the entire country. And if you stay with us, folks, here on CNN, we're going to keep you up to date on all that, including your travel plans. First of all, I want to tell you about the Pentagon. The Pentagon is returning to full operations today. It's 2 days after that hijacked plane slammed into the nation's military center. Almost all 24,000 employees are expected back on the job today at the Pentagon. Half the building is still closed because of smoke and structural damage. Workers are doubling up in offices, and there, too, there is a grim task of searching for victims. That goes on there. The investigation into the attacks is unfolding on several fronts, including flight schools in Florida. Investigators are looking at the records of some students that were trained at the flight schools. They may have been involved in the hijackings. One of them is the same man who rented a car that's been impounded at Boston's Logan Airport. Sources say that car contained materials helpful in the investigation, including flight manuals that were written in Arabic. And as you know, of course, the two planes that slammed into the World Trade Center were hijacked from Logan Airport. Now, speaking of airports, we are expecting an announcement any moment now from Transportation Secretary Norman Mineta on air travel. The Department of Transportation says that U.S. airspace will be reopened in the next hour. Earlier today, all 3 New York area airports reopened on a limited basis. That's according to a New York Port Authority spokesman. He, though, gave no indication of how many flights would be allowed in and out of New York. Airports and airlines are working with the FAA to make sure that new security procedures are in place, which is a good reminder, Leon. You know, people are stuck across the country looking forward to getting home. But even when the airports open and the airlines resume service, it's just not going to be like it used to be. It's going to take some time to get where you're going.
That's right, but it'll still be the first big step towards getting things back to normal across the country.
A step back toward that.
All right, let's step back now up to New York, and Paula is standing by. Paula?
Hi, Darren. Hi, Leon. Leon, I was struck by the numbers you just shared with us coming out of that Mayor Giuliani news conference. I think what is striking about the numbers that you mentioned, particularly the missing persons numbers, is how much they have changed in just a 2.5-hour period of time. You mentioned that so far, 4,763 people are considered missing. That is up over 1,000 from what the mayor had reported earlier this morning. Now, we have some new information in from the fire commissioner of New York City. He is commenting on reports that there has been some contact from the rubble from a New York City Fire Department fireman. and he can't confirm the exact nature of that contact. They are still treating this particular case as a rescue, not a recovery. There is still hope more bodies will be found, or more people will be pulled out of the wreckage alive. You might remember yesterday, seems like a complete miracle that 11 people were pulled from this wreckage. 6 firefighters, 3 police officers, 2 civilians. Right now I'm going to check in with Michael LeCoux, who just about a half hour ago gave us a stunning view of just how devastating this attack was in New York. Now, Michael, before you go any further, you need to establish for us, when you show us pictures of these cars, if these cars were parked blocks away from what was once the World Trade Center complex, or if they've actually been pulled out from the wreckage.
Paul, I didn't quite think I understood all of your question, but yes, these cars were pulled from very close to ground zero. And if you look at the image that we've first given you, it certainly looks like the images of a war zone. And in fact, that's what it must have been. Indeed, what you were looking at is a car that was pulled out from somewhere close to what was the World Trade Center, someplace very close to the Twin Towers, just a few blocks south of where we are right now, just a few blocks south in what was ground zero. This car here, we believe, was probably a police car, because if you can look at the front dashboard, you can see the radio display at the computer terminal, or what was once a computer terminal, and a computer keyboard. We also found some police reports in the car. So it's unclear, of course, whether this car was a vehicle that had been stationed there, or whether this person or the crew that was driving this car were responding to the scene. If you look just down past here, you'll see 2 cars. And from this vantage point, you can get a really good sense, I think, of the impact, the profound impact of this blast. Unrecognizable, other than the fact that you can see what was once an engine completely covered in debris and soot, and what was once a wheel. Obviously, these were steel radio belted wheels, and now what is left are just the stringy wires around the rim of this thing. You know, as I've been spending some time down on this street, which has become a pretty important artery, we've been seeing rescue workers coming in and out, some of the new rescue workers who are relieving the folks who have been working all night, some of them arm in arm, hands over each other's shoulders, clearly getting very emotional about this. A lot of pedestrians have walked by this street, and they stop whenever they see these vehicles, which were obviously pulled so that the rescue workers can continue doing their very good work. And they look at these vehicles with complete incredulity. I see many of them standing there, sometimes 2 and 3 at a time, friends or family who obviously live in the neighborhood, looking at these cars, gazing, and I think this cars, seeing the shell of these cars is giving a lot of people, at least the people who live here, and maybe some of our viewers at home, just a very true sense of what the impact must have been like, and what it must have been like to be one of the many thousands of people who were there when the impact first occurred. Just down here we have a car that's in slightly better shape, but tells a story in its own way. Maybe it was a few blocks farther away, farther north, slightly further away from the impact. And as you can see on its front window, the word scrawled W-A-R, war, because I suppose that's what it feels like. Paula?
Boy, I'll tell you, it's going to take a while for anybody to digest the images you're seeing now. Michael, I know it is very difficult to get any information out of rescue workers now. Obviously, everybody's working so hard to try to perhaps even rescue folks at this time. Have you been given any information from paramedics about what is going on at Ground Zero?
Well, what we've heard right now is that people are working tirelessly. They're working in very long shifts, that they're getting very emotionally involved in what they're finding. I'm trying not to be gruesome about this, but to be very accurate, frankly, about it. They're finding more body parts than they're actually finding bodies. And some of the rescue workers, obviously getting very emotionally attached to this particular task, say that they're concerned that they may not be, there are some people who may never be identified, whose entire bodies may never be found. We've also talked to somebody who's been intimately involved in the rescue and search effort, who tells us that they found what they believe to be at least one of the wheels of one of the planes that crashed into the Twin Towers 4 blocks away from where the Twin Towers were. So again, that gives you a sense of what the impact was like. And there's no telling what else we may find within this perimeter. It's interesting, the rescue workers are working right inside what you would call ground zero, or the heart of the explosion and the blast. But when you talk to more rescue workers and you talk to police officers and other local authorities here, they will tell you that the damage that was sustained by that blast spread many blocks beyond that. And I think just telling you that the wheel of one of the planes, what they believe to be one of the planes, being found blocks away, gives you some sense of that.
Michael, can you tell us if the smoke seems any thicker down there now? From our platform here, it appears as though, and I know the winds have shifted a little bit, that the plume is even larger than an hour ago.
Right. Well, I can tell you this much. It may be because I'm getting used to this, which is probably bad news, but it doesn't quite feel the way that it felt even just 30 minutes ago. It's constantly changing. I'm going to ask William if you could just swing by and look up here. We are underneath essentially what has become a very recognizable plume of smoke. You can see this from just about any place in Manhattan right now. In fact, you can see it from New Jersey. You can see it from parts of the other boroughs outside of Manhattan, from Brooklyn to Queens. And what I can tell you is that it's been very interesting. Again, one of the many vehicles that pass us as we've been standing here for the past hour or so. What I can tell you is that it doesn't feel as severe as it was. It smelled very much like you were standing in the middle of the embers of a bonfire. No longer smells that way. The colors of this cloud seem to change by the minute. Just moments ago, it was a very thick black, and now it looks like a white, sort of grayish, as if you're almost flying through the clouds in the air. Paula?
All right, thank you, Michael. Put that mask on. I know that the health workers down there advising all of you that are in that close to put the mask on. Before we go back to Atlanta, I wanted to share something with you that some of you might find disturbing. Because the winds have shifted, some of the wreckage is blowing to parts of Manhattan, even a couple of miles away from here. Peter Stiles is a correspondent of ours. He lives, we are told, about 2.5 miles from here. I wanted to share with you some of the paperwork that ended up blowing into his yard. You will see this sheet is just simple notes, maybe with some phone numbers. This is an order slip from Cantor Fitzgerald, which is a bond company that was housed in one of the 3 buildings that collapsed. This particular piece of paper probably will sicken many of you. It is a sheet explaining health coverage from employees, explaining that early retirees' health coverage cannot be terminated. And this last sheet I'm going to share with you that blew up into the yard of Peter Stiles is an actual list of a list of participants in a deferred vested benefit plan, actually listing 10 or 11 people who had vested interests at this point, even describing the value of those benefits. Once again, people all over Manhattan are reporting smelling smoke stronger than they have smelled over the last 48 hours. The schools are indeed open today, all public schools that is, at least, and the majority of the parochial schools. And once again, we are told that the stock exchanges may open as early as tomorrow. If they don't open tomorrow, they will open on Monday. The city is working very hard to clear some of the arteries moving south of here. You can't even get down to Wall Street now because many of these streets are being used as a staging area for the rescue efforts. So Leon, that's what I've got for now, and you know, I don't know what your reaction was to this paperwork, but I know that it got an awful lot of people here.
Boy, I can tell you my immediate reaction was